Yo, it's your boy Nails of the Interim here, and I've got a confession to make. Okay, so I'm actually not wearing pants right now. Alright, so Ravenous by Garton. Ravenous by Garton is a 2006 pulpy horror gory werewolf novel. It's about 342 pages now. I'll tell you straight off, I give this a solid 8 out of 10, which, considering the fact that it's the best of the worst, meaning this type of book is the type of book that offers you nothing spiritual or enlightening or intellectual. It just offers you... Oh my gosh, shut the fuck up. A temporary little escape, which is what a lot of what people come to horror for. That's the short version in summary. So this is in a way trashy fiction that is nonetheless good enough, well written enough, well constructed enough, and the thing that makes it original is that it works really hard to make the classic werewolf fear anomaly more contemporary, and I think it succeeds in that regard. So, well, a weird thing about this novel, when I first finished it, I thought, well, that was fun, and I kind of tossed it aside, and I thought, there's things about it that are kind of dumb, but the longer that time has passed in my memory, the more I realized how fun it actually was, and other horror I look for and read, I realize for every book that's as good as this, there's a million trying to do the same thing that don't quite do it as well. And so this is really just a guilty pleasure. It's exalted trash, the best of this sort of trash genre of horror that is like the intent of the book is partially trash. It's just totally extreme. But it has big balls. It has big balls for conceiving of such a ludicrous plot. So, without spoiling, just the basic premise. If that's a spoiler, then you're a baby. So basically, there's this STD that turns people into werewolves. So it's passed through people when they become werewolves. They start raping each other. So basically, there's that. And so what the author tries to do is give a look at, in a way, the metaphor is the bad side of sexual addiction and sexual indulgence and that sort of thing. But this is not an erotic novel. Sex is a theme, but it's kind of daring and exploring that idea through sort of a meta cautionary symbolism that's very slight. I wouldn't really call it immoral. But I would just say basically the dark side of human sexuality, which is getting closer to the truth. And the truth, if there's any that this explores, is that a lot of that is nasty and overpowering and can bring out the monster in people depending on how they respond to it and the level of their moral weight, their moral the strength of their spirit having the dominant over their inner animal, so to say. There's that, but that's all really just not why we're here to read Ravenous. It's really just to be scared and to enjoy a really good thrill, and it does deliver on that. There's some genuinely chilling moments, and there's also some very badass scenes. Some aspects of the characters and plot feel a little bit predictable, wooden, not totally believable, especially how the police department responds to the threat in this town at a certain point. That was kind of silly, but overall, it's really impressive how real it feels in some ways that makes it, good enough to get into, and then there's better payoff when shit hits the fan, and the violence breaks out, and so basically, as a horror novel, I have to give it a solid 8 out of 10. It didn't blow me away, but I do want to read more books by Ray Garton. I had fun, and that was the important part. I had fun with it. It was shocking. It was horrible, and it had the thing I like the most when it comes to certain horror novels like this: realistic, scary violence that challenges me. Um, I should talk about all of that. So yeah, there's some pretty brutal rape in this book, but it doesn't seem like it has a sadistic spirit about it. I doubt it. I didn't get that impression. I don't. It doesn't. It didn't necessarily need to go to such deep detail, but at the same time, it kind of did. And the reason is because, sexual assault and rape and stuff is so connected to real life horror and crime, and such a key motivating factor behind a lot of criminal psychology. More so, the abuse of one's own body, mind, and spirit through sexual sin and vice and all that sort of thing, in my opinion. And so basically it's a place that most horror is afraid to go and afraid to analyze. And that's what makes Ravenous really special. It does not is not afraid. It's able to challenge you, and basically there's something that feels really, really contemporary about that, is all I'm saying. And so, but it is still not for the faint of heart. A caution: it's brutal. It is that those scenes are not fun. It's just genuinely revolting. So that's not the fun horror I'm talking about when I'm talking about the violence. That part is just like makes you want to throw up, because so the way it's portrayed though in spirit, with its intent, with it in spirit, is not like drawn out. There's not like, it doesn't go too far into victim psychology like certain characters as they're being raped. Instead, it has a sort of responsible tone in that it feels genuinely awful, traumatic. You feel bad for them. You feel angry, and so, but at the same time, I also warn you, there is no real redeeming moral to the story or conclusion. Overall, the book isn't making any statement about good or bad in regards to sexuality, or the abuse. I should say the abuse of sexuality or the abuse of others, etc. In any capacity. It's really, I think that's the part that's kind of Garton exploring human nature. And if there was, it's just making a caution, which is sort of a pessimistic view, that there is a disturbing side to humanity that a lot of people choose not to look at, choose not to see the capacity within themselves, that sort of thing. And it's kind of aimless, and it's a little, like, sometimes you have to ask yourself why, but then I find myself asking, well, why do I read books like this? What am I looking for? What am I looking to learn? Because I could read 1,000 horror stories that don't challenge me, they don't truly sicken me. This sort of thing really does, and so it really gets me immersed, and it gets a better emotional payoff. In the end, it has an effect on me, and so because of that, I'm afraid that I've already found some of the best horror that there is, and I don't realize it, because I have only read a few dozen horror novels at this point in my life, at most. I'm not really sure, and so basically, I want to read more books like this. I want to read more books that are actually disturbing, and I know that there's a lot out there, but and probably many more that are a lot more disturbing than this. This felt sort of like an action movie feels, or like a thriller horror, in that it's really about pulp, and characters aren't terribly deep. It's a pretty quick read, and aside from the genuine nastiness of a few traumatizing scenes that will probably scar your brain forever, it it was a lot of fun, but it wasn't like insanely memorable, and it was memorable but not insanely memorable. But what it really made me want to do is continue to find more stories like that. And I would like to. It would have been better if things were a little more fleshed out, a little bit more detail, a little bit more, the writing could have been a little better. The writing wasn't bad, but I definitely am starting to develop a taste, a hunger, if you will. A taste for the forbidden, the evil. I would want more. No. I'm a good person. I only read uplifting, nice things. I don't like evil. Evil's bad. So anyway, that's Ravenous by Ray Garton. I have to go.